Hi, everybody. It's Linda G and our man about town, Sterling.
Good morning, everybody. It's
My
always a
favorite
pleasure to be
Sundays
here.
every 2 weeks.
Yeah, on Academy Awards Sunday.
Academy Award. I was just telling Sterling that, I always, for 2 years, we haven't had the party though,
Yeah.
because of COVID. So a friend of ours in Marin, when I went through breast cancer, my sister's bunco group brought me food and they didn't even know who I was. Food enough for my family. Each of them took turns bringing food to me.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that kindness. So then my sister invited me to their Academy Awards party. And it was just, they're not literally playing bunco, but we gather around this huge TV and Jill puts a spread like you wouldn't believe. She's an excellent cook. And everybody's eating and laughing. And we do $5 for the list, who your choices are. Well, for several years straight, I think I was always winning. And it's not that I was cheating, honest to God, I just could guess right, So I actually started deliberately picking the wrong people because I didn't want people to get mad at me for winning all the time. So I think last time I was in 4th place, which is fine with me. But who are you thinking best picture?
It's going to be close with Coda. Going to be pretty close.
I read Andrew McKay, who did Don't Look Up. I read his stepmother, and he said Coda.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I mean, going into the Oscars, a lot of the industry has a pretty good idea of who's going to get the awards. Pretty good idea. You can tell by the momentum and who's going to get Best Supporting Actress or Actor and Best Picture and all that. You can kind of tell. Yeah.
Well, also, that Power of the Dog has been winning left and right, but it was a good movie. But if I was to pick an award for a lifetime of remembering this movie, I would pick Don't Look Up and Power and Coda.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what people perceive at the time the awards are given, then like 20 years later. So I've learned that always there's something that happens in the public when more people watch the movie and then they come around to it or not. So yeah.
Well, I really enjoy. I think he's definitely going to win Best Actor. The Troy guy, hand language guy. I'm gonna start learning hand language. I like that. It's they're congratulating they're doing this. So I hope it wins. It could be Power of the Dog, but I saw Power of the Dog and it was okay. I wasn't totally impressed, but that's my opinion. I'm a nobody, you guys. So okay, but when my friend said Coda, I hadn't seen it yet. I said, really, Coda? I better watch this, and it's on Apple TV. And the other show, oh my God. And then we'll get right to the questions. The other show is Patricia Arquette and the guy, Ben, he does the museum show. Ben
Affleck?
No, Ben, he does the Night at the Museum shows. Ben, he's a little short guy. His family was famous.
Drawing a blank. I know.
Yeah, but Ben, he's short with dark hair. Anyway, he directs it. He also produces it. It's called Severance. It's on Apple TV. I was told.
I know what you're talking about now, and I'm drawing a blank. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he did
Stiller.
That.
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller. He did that show about being the neighborhood watch, and he's done the funniest shows. Anyway,
wait. I think I have the name wrong again. Sorry about it. Was Stiller and Mira was her parents.
Mira.
I'm drawing a blank. I apologize. I'm drawing a blank.
Funny. I used to love them on the Ed Sullivan show.
Yeah.
But this production, you guys, I totally recommend. 10 thumbs up. Okay, so we have our first question.
Okay.
And thank you to Linda and Dan.
Yes, big shout out always.
Big shout out because they go through this and pick out the stuff, take out the swearing. Number one, Arizona has had a very successful mail-in ballot system in place for several years with no fraud. Now, Republican legislator is trying to remove this completely and make it in-person voting mandatory for one day only with no food or drinks allowed while standing in line. Good luck even getting Republicans to vote under that pressure. Will the Republicans get their way and change what has been a well-received and well-running system?
And that question was solely focused on Arizona, right?
Solely
Solely focused on
focused
Arizona,
on
yeah. You know, what I get is they're going to limit the amount of time for mail-in ballots. So they're not going to do away with mail-in ballots, but
Okay.
they're going to close the time window. So I don't know what it is now, whether it's a 2-week window or what the actual mail-in ballot window is. But I do see them squeezing it down, getting a little more strict on that window, but not doing away with mail-in ballots. So for me, they're still going to achieve a level of balance there. They will.
Well, I don't see, they're hurting Republicans too. You got disabled Republicans who really can't get down there and vote.
Right.
People who live in way outskirts of stuff. So yeah, okay. I'll tell you, I'm automatically on mail-in in California and have been for years now. Can you read on Alvin Bragg? What is the fate of SDNY investigations into Trump.org?
This has come up several times over the weeks, but my guys are still saying the same thing, is that he's eventually going to get replaced, and probably by Letitia James. There's something here where she's going to get involved. And because I see them putting new attorneys on the case, like new, DAs or whatnot, because I see an avalanche of evidence sitting there that nobody can dispute. And so they're going to kind of reignite the case. So it looks like for me, Letitia James is going to get involved very shortly here, I think weeks, a couple of months or something. Yeah.
So did Alvin Bragg, did he get paid off, or is he just showing his?
My what I get on that is for entertainment purposes only. Someone told them, in the middle of the night, hands off.
Okay. I felt like he got under pressure.
Like he just got like a mailgram or something, and he knew where it came from, and it said like hands off.
Yeah, they might even have something on him that scared him, So by the way, you guys, Sterling, as you well know, has his own YouTube show. Highly recommend. Oh my God, you're such a talent.
Oh, thank you.
Especially your pre-stuff. I mean, fantastic. I just show up with my big ass head on the screen. You got that nice, oh my God, it's beautiful. Your readings are great.
Well, thanks. We try to put the material together in a way that's a format that's easier to consume. So
yeah, and it's not too like your beginning. I had a beginning that I might start again with, but it was a little monotonous and it was the same thing every time. So you're very creative. Okay, will GOP senators who brought hate and dog whistles to the hearing to confirm the first Black woman for the Supreme Court suffer consequences for this effort?
And this question is all about GOP. Yeah, they made a big kind of mockery out of the whole.
Yeah, brought up that trial and books about racism.
I don't see a direct correlation between what they did during that confirmation hearing and what's going to come down on them. There are other things that are going to come down on regarding the insurrection and money, laundered money. So I mean, the question is, as they say, they're going to get their comeuppance, but it's not going to be directly related to that session hearing. I think that was the question. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they were told, don't vote for her. When McConnell announced, I knew. She's got great qualifications, but unfortunately, I'm not going to vote for her.
Yeah.
Ben Sass too. But I see a couple of Republicans coming over. I don't know who, but I see two. Even Mitt Romney might vote for her. Okay, but I do know that the consensus right now of people calling the White House are Black women. They feel that she was very disrespected.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, number 4, is it necessary to meditate daily to retain connections to our guides and angels? Can we ask them to help Ukraine and heal others, or does that healing only work if it's part of our life plan?
Yes, that's a multi-layered question. Yeah. First off, you don't have to meditate to speak with your guides and angels. And I kind of, preach that all the time to a lot of different people. You can learn the techniques for talking real time, like you and I are talking right now. And that's one of the best communication levels. The other side of that question was, I guess, can you send healing energy, or do your prayers work for Ukraine? Was that
for
the kind
Ukraine?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's almost analogous to having a huge river. If you think about a huge river, that being a
Light.
river of love, healing, yeah. Let's say going from the US to Ukraine, when you pray, you join that river. So you absolutely, yeah, your prayers help the river move faster, more strongly. Yeah, absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, I was so sick for 2 days with Ukraine, and I was praying, and all of us were praying and praying. I was praying so hard it hurt. So I was probably praying too hard. And all of a sudden, things started to change in the Ukraine. Not that it's fantastic, but some stuff was coming up, and I thought, whoa. And my guide said, see, prayers work.
No, it absolutely does. The same way you can send love and light to human beings in your life, and the way it tempers the environment. When you say major significant prayers to the universe, it affects nations when people do it. Yeah, the same principle.
Okay. Will this spring and summer be good for tourism as well as the service industry, and as well for artists?
And that was this summer? Was that the question,
Yeah,
this summer? Yeah, absolutely. For me, my team's telling me it comes between the two kind of swells we're going to have in the COVID pandemic. So we got a little bit of a swell coming right now, and then there's one towards the end of the year. So the middle of the year is going to have kind of a sweet spot. It will for tourism and service industry and whatnot. And those swells in the COVID pandemic will be so mitigated by all the vaccinations and mask wearing and all that. So
exactly. Yeah. Okay, will Putin be poisoned, and will the oligarchs be responsible for this?
It's a very pointed question.
Give it to us straight.
Yeah, I get no and no. So I don't get he's going to get poisoned. And so that means the oligarchs are not doing it. So two sides to that. Every time I look at his energy, I see he's wrestling with colon cancer. That's what I get. And colon cancer is going to be very significant for him. I think, he's wrestling with it right now. So eventually there's a number of things that will take him out of position. There's kind of a little bit of a uprising among the generals and his government, and his other colleagues are going to kind of move to stifle his power. And so that's part of it. There'll be a population uprising in Russia. So a lot of factors involved here, not the least of which will be his health problems, that'll start moving him sideways here. So anyway, the answer to that question is I don't see oligarchs poisoning him and that kind of thing, though.
Right. Well, I saw him running, so the people must be after him.
Eventually, he will run. And I think this question has come up before. People say, will he take his life? No, I don't see him taking his life. I do see him running, almost in some respects the way Hitler did. He's going to run.
Yeah, and also I feel even if he was to press the red button and say nuke him, the people in charge would say no. Okay, will New York ever indict and prosecute Trump?
Yes, it's almost a corollary to the question earlier here. But yes, I think that's going to happen with Letitia James' efforts and replacement of DAs and attorneys, and they have a mountain of evidence. And I also get there's a connection with the White House here. So the White House is saying, let's get our timing right. Like, okay, we have this case, and then federal government say we have this case. Let's get all the timing right before we move it all forward.
Is that also, does that also include Merrick Garland?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very happy about this because on Twitter, I don't know if this question is in here. Yesterday, somebody, sometimes Twitter likes people to get upset. And there was Matt Gaetz made an announcement that he's going to petition Donald Trump to be Speaker of the House. And everybody was all upset. I said, listen, consider the sort, Matt Gaetz. So he'll get a couple of votes. He'll get Bobart, and he'll get Green. But these are, if it was anybody but Matt Gaetz, I'd say maybe we should worry about it, but it's a nothing burger.
Yeah, somebody asked me that question, I think last week on my show, and I said it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Okay, early Tuesday evening when I was driving home, I saw, this is a good story. I love these stories. I saw a ghost-like figure crossing in front of my car. There was still some daylight, and I could see what resembled a male wearing a coat. What are your thoughts about this incident? I could see it clearly. The figure looked back at me. Ooh. I love ghost assist
You
stories.
know what I'm being told about that? That was a ghost. It was a spirit, but somebody revisiting that scene. So somebody where something maybe tragically happened at that scene, and
Right.
so and you frequently that happens around the earth. So that
Yeah.
was somebody not related to this person, but revisiting the scene, but they saw him. So that also means this person had a certain level of perception, which is good. They were able to perceive that spirit. Mhm.
Right. And you know, a lot of times I talk to families that have newer homes and have some sort of hauntings, and it's related to the land.
Yeah.
Okay, what future do you see for Russia? Will it be divided and form new independent countries, or will it remain united?
It will remain united. And based on a lot of what's going on right now, the world's going to come down pretty hard on Russia, NATO and whatnot. So it's going to stay united with what it has. But I do see like in another decade, there's going to be a little bit more of another controversy with them trying to expand again. So it's going to go through a cycle. But the next cycle I see in 10 years or a decade out is going to be more minimalized because of what's happening. NATO is going to get much stronger. So
Yeah, and I actually see them being our partners down the road.
yeah, they're much more moderate leader coming into Russia. The next one will be much more moderate. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see Medicare for all in some form passing anytime soon?
Within 3 to 4 years, I do, but it only happens after the corporate minimum tax is passed, that 15% minimum tax. So that puts more tax in the coffers. So I'm being shown that yes, it's going to start rolling out in about 3 to 4 years here. Yeah.
What causes artists and writers block? And is the universe saying it's not the time to create, or is it something one has to push through? If it's the latter, how does one do that?
Well, quite simply, when you stand in the creative flow and you really uniquely do stand in the creative flow, you're opening up that channel to the universe. And so different things can squeeze down that channel, stress, anxiety, if you're tired, if you try to push things too hard. So it really just requires a bit of rebalance. And that's all it really takes to kind of open up it's that creative mind channel that ducks right to the universe, your angels and guides.
Right.
That's what a lot of musicians use and novelists and whatnot. And just a quick story, just a really quick story. I won't name drop her, but working around the entertainment industry, I've had many experiences where in the middle of projects, famous people or recording artists just left the studio for like 2 weeks. And I was like, what's that all about? But I learned over time what happened is that really good artists understand the time you spend away from your craft is important as the time you spend with it.
Oh, wow.
So I learned that early on. It's like, wow, why did they just go away for 2 weeks? The smart people understand. So getting back to this question, you have to strike a balance and open up that channel again and various ways to do it. Yeah.
Very good. Will more countries join NATO, such as Finland, Sweden, Ukraine, once Putin is removed? Will this further isolate Russia and ensure the safety of Europe? You just kind of answered that, but
Yeah. And there's like 5 questions in there. So my answer is yes, 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 and yes.
okay.
So.
Will there be any upcoming research on binge eating disorders? That's interesting.
And I'm going to take that question like the medical definition of binge eating, because, sometimes people casually binge eat. But I think true binge eating from a medical sense is when you absolutely can't stop and there's a real problem. And so, yes, within several years here, within 4 to 5 years, they're telling me there'll be some sort of a medication that's going to be developed here using plant technology that will somehow reorient chemical balance in the brain. So yes, there will be. It's more of a natural remedy.
Princess Diana binge eat, and then she would make herself sick.
Yeah, I mean, true binge eaters or whatnot, I think they can't stop. That's a medical problem. Yeah.
Well, back in the days of castles and stuff, yes, everybody would overeat and then all throw up, make themselves throw up so they could keep eating through the night. So
you heard it here first.
You heard it here first. In the near future, will there be a solution for the Hanford Superfund site at the head of the Columbia River? It holds over 500 million gallons of radiological and chemical waste from plutonium manufactured for the Manhattan Project in World War II. There are numerous leaking tanks. The pollution runs into the Columbia River. So far, there does not seem to be any available technology to deal with this. Shoot.
Yeah, so that's a nuclear polluted site that's nearly like 600 square miles. That's a very large site. And if I remember seriously correctly, I think there were like 9 or 10 nuclear plants on that site. Well, so here's the long and the short answer is within a decade, we're going to have technology to clean up a lot of nuclear sites, including that site, but it's coming from ETs. And so it utilizes materials that actually aren't on Earth right now.
Isn't that
Same kind of materials that actually create anti-gravity propulsion systems. Those materials don't exist on Earth right now. So yeah, that super site, but it's like a decade away, but it's all going to happen. Yeah.
Can I ask whereabouts this is? It's not saying what state or what. Where's this at?
That's back east. Is it off the Delaware River, or what'd you say in that? Is that
Columbia.
Columbia River? Yeah, that's back east. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I don't.
My recollection. Yeah.
Okay. Senator Joe Manchin says he'll vote to approve Judge Jackson, greatly increasing the likelihood of her confirmation to the Supreme Court. How will Kirsten Sinema vote?
Well, that's a wild card. So I think, was this question all about, will Jackson get approved? Was that part of the question?
Oh, yeah, they're saying Manchin's going to vote. They're asking.
Yeah. So I guess
for being approved.
Yeah, for me, it's a wild card. It looks like right now she's leaning towards it to vote for confirmation, but I see but I see like no less than like 9 other GOP also voting. So I think, you just have to get over 50 kind of a thing, the majority to make it happen. Yes. And so they're saying it's a bit of a wild card. Whether she does or not is almost going to be insignificant. So, yeah.
With the Supreme Court confirmation hearing in process and the situation in Ukraine, do you see the Senate working behind the scenes on new voting laws before the midterms?
I do. Some form. It's going to be a reduced kind of, for some reason, it's going to have a good impact on the voting rights legislation. So some form of it's going to pass. It's like maybe they won't be able to pass the entire, was it John Lewis Voting Rights Act, but there's something here that's going to get passed that affects gerrymandering and that kind of a thing. So there is something good coming here. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a reason why some people have near-death experiences?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Well, absolutely. Everything that happens in your life path is part of your life blueprint, and a near-death experience is certainly part of your life path blueprint. So the reason for it is to give you tremendous insight as to what is the difference between this dimension and the heaven dimension. But if it's on your life path, normally in all my experiences I've seen with people, you're supposed to pass along that information. So you're actually supposed to take that experience and move it forward to help others understand basically life and death. And yeah, so that's it's almost like winning the lottery in a certain, although people say near-death experience, it's a horrible thing, but the fact that it's near death and you come back is the tremendous miracle. Yeah.
Will we receive another stimulus due to the increases in food and gas?
I'm being told in parts. And so what that means is partly the federal government stepping in and partly states. So I see parts and parts. On the state side, it looks like there'll be things like, gas cards, removing federal gas taxes to lower the price at the pump. So that'll help us, so there'll be some stimulus checks and ways to lower cost of living.
Right. And Bernie Sanders is working on that too. He wants the gas people, bigwigs getting fat money. He wants to take half of their money they get.
Yeah, and when they sell Putin's yacht, that's going to help a lot.
Oh, yeah. But also, our governor here in California has already announced he's going to be sending checks to families who earn under $75,000.
Okay.
I guess we have a 38 billion surplus here in California.
We do. I heard that this week. Yeah.
So, okay. As a nurse, I often see friends and family feel such sadness, grief, and guilt if they don't get to a loved one in time to view them physically dying. Does it have any impact on the person crossing over?
None whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
I'll
However,
read someone and know they weren't in the room and they were regretting it. And the first thing that person, the deceased, says is, I wasn't even there.
yeah. However, I'll tell you this. It's been my experience. We've talked with a lot of different people on this side and the other side. The universe manages it that way. So, for example, a lot of times their guardian angels, their birth angels, want to escort them across when family's not in the room.
Okay.
So I see experiences all the time where a family's been 24/7 for 2 weeks with a loved one. They leave for a Starbucks coffee for 10 minutes and the loved one passes.
Right.
That's not an accident. So,
well, it's so funny because my dad even waved at us. He waved at the nurses. He smiled. He squeezed my hand and we were by his side. And then I told my sister, well, let's just grab some lunch. We had pretty much cleaned up the room. We had everything out of there because we knew he was going to die, but he was rallying all the time. And so I said, well, let's go, have lunch. And I told the nurses, just call us, God forbid something happens. We won't be coming back to view the body, I told them. And when we left, I wasn't out the door 3 minutes in the car and they said he died.
Right. Very common. So I going full circle on that question. It makes no difference whatsoever in them crossing or to the individuals. That's actually the way the universe wants it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my dad was pretty strong and I could see him not wanting his kids to see him die. Will there ever be a time when countries of Earth will be civilized sufficiently and the ETs feeling comfortable sharing their incredible knowledge? Dr. Green, the one that talks about the fifth dimension or whatever, he says that the ETs say, because everybody's saying, where are the ETs? Where are the ETs? He's saying that they have made comment that we're not civilized enough.
I talk with them all the time. I talk with many species, and that's 100% correct, is that's why they're rolling this out very slowly. They're already talking with a lot of scientists and leaders of nations right now on the planet, and they've already stepped in where they need to save humanity, but they're going to roll it out very slow. So within 4 years now, something like that, the public's going to be more aware of them. They'll see them, but it's like another decade, 10 years from now before a lot of the average, human being starts interacting with them. But they'll be aware of it. Yeah. And the thing is, human beings are not very evolved. They've already kind of wiped out the civilization 3 times. We're on the 4th cycle. So, as they say, people, let's get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. What will happen to Nazi extremists in our local communities?
Well, they're going to go back into the underbelly of society where they were for a long time, and they're not going to be enabled by any kind of a dictator. So it's, they're always there. They never leave. They'll go back into the underbelly of society. They're a very loud minority.
Okay. Who will be the next president of Russia?
Well, what they're showing me is it's not the head of security right now, which is a Bortnikov. I forget his name now, Bortnikov, something like that.
Yeah.
I do see so here's what they're showing me. There's going to be an interim leader of Russia for, let's say, 4 to 6 months. And then there'll be the permanent leader that will be there for decades. But this will be a younger individual, maybe a late 30s, early 40s, 40, 41. But they're showing me that this leader will actually have kind of pretty good ties around business, the economy, and the military. Now, the interesting thing also my guides are telling me is that this individual is going to get pushed into the job. So that he does not want to take the role, but a lot of these elements of society around Russia are going to push him into the role. And the world's going to be aware of it. Say, nope, I don't want it. I'm happy to help, but I don't want it. And after a lot of prodding, maybe that's why it's a 6-month run for this interim president. They push him in there, but he will be more moderate because his focus is going to be on rebuilding the economy of Russia.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's going on with Mark Meadows? The list of stuff coming out on him is getting longer. Will he give up a lot of folks to save himself?
Yeah, I mean, he's on a sinking ship right now, and there's a lot of litigation coming his direction, and not the least of which now, all the evidence and the text that came out with Ginny, Clarence Thomas's wife. Yeah, he's on a sinking ship, and he knows it. So, I think that's really the simple answer to the question.
Well, and it's not on here, but that leads me that it's not here, which I was surprised.
Mhm.
What are you feeling now of Justice Thomas's?
Oh, he's on a very quick path towards exiting. So it's coming up. It's just a matter of there's momentum gathering behind the scenes to say, look, either you leave quietly or we do something very publicly to make it very difficult on you. So
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen.
because he knew what his wife was doing.
Of course, of course.
But was he really sick in the hospital or?
Yeah, I'm being told he had like a stomach bug or something, some sort of I don't pick
Well,
up
I feel he
COVID.
went in for one thing and they found something else that he's dealing with.
Yeah, I feel like there's a stomach bug and maybe they did some other diagnostics on him while he
Like
was in there, but
diabetes or something.
yeah.
But that Jenny Thomas, he's going to go down. I knew that our president now was going to pick someone, and I knew the second one was Thomas. I didn't know if he was going to die, but it felt like hardship when he left because he doesn't want to leave while Biden is president.
I've always saw, even like a year ago, you and I talked that there were going to be 3 replacements right now with Biden. So we're starting the clock.
It's starting to happen. Okay, if Putin shoots a limited nuclear weapon into Poland, will NATO attack or back off?
100%. They'll reinforce and back up the threat, and much of that is a good work by Biden in bringing NATO together and strong alignment. And Putin hears that, so he hears what's going on. Yeah, the NATO will respond very quickly and very strongly.
Strongly. Now, listen, the president said he needs to not be in office or Putin needs to go. And everybody's trying to backtrack on it. But I felt that people kind of know what he's saying. The Russian people need to get rid of him. But I also feel when Biden comes off with that, because remember Trump did that to Rocket Man. He said, come on, Rocket Man, hit us with your best. We've got more and we'll destroy you. And everybody's like, oh my God, please, no. But I almost feel standing up to strength to a bully is good.
Yeah. So I guess you're asking kind of a question about the way that comment played out. And I don't believe Biden in his heart meant regime change. He didn't.
No.
However, I think the message he was sending to the Russian people was that you really can't have this kind of a leader leading your country if you want your country to flourish.
There you go.
And I think everybody kind of knows that. Even the generals know that.
Exactly.
They've had tremendous losses across the military.
Another general yesterday.
Yeah.
7 so far.
And you saw that when they had a high-level meeting between the military sectors of both Ukraine and Russia. The Russian contingent were very disgusted and dissatisfied. They showed their public face of how bad they thought everything was going, which they normally don't do.
No. Well, part of the reason these Russian generals are getting killed is they're going up to the front line because they can't depend on their military to do the job.
Correct.
Okay. Do you see anything coming up this next week?
Yeah, many things, almost half a dozen things here. So I do see a strong effort here by NATO to show some more force. So there's something coming up here in the media where they're going to demonstrate unity, which we're going to be surprised at. I do see more weapons and even the MiGs making their way into the Ukraine, the air power. So there's better air defense. I do see, I don't want to scare anybody, but there's a cyber attack coming this week from Russia. But it looks like everybody would be fairly well prepared and don't see a lot of loss in money at banks or anything. It's just going to be.
I felt like we were going to be okay.
Yeah. And I also see another aggressive move here by Russia, whether they try to do a big bombardment with another city here, but there's another aggressive move coming up this week. And also, finally, ending on a good note, I see very good progress with the confirmation of Judge Jackson. Good confirmation. I think they're voting this week, but I forget how the process plays out. But I'm just seeing like big momentum behind getting her in.
I think she passes this particular arena where Ted Cruz and all of them thought they were going to be somebody, and then it goes to the Senate, the full Senate. Yeah,
I see like just real momentum behind that. So it's just,
what was I going to ask you? There was something else we need to talk about that. Anyway, the generals are dying, but they said there's that, see, the thing is, you can't trust anything Putin's saying. They said they only want this part of the Ukraine, but actually they lie. There's nothing, they're hitting Kiev as we speak.
Of
They're
course,
bombing
of
Kiev.
course. Yeah.
But they said there's a bunch of assassinators coming out to get Zelensky. I don't see them getting to him.
Looks to me like he stays safe. It
Right
does
now,
look to
yeah.
me, because for some reason my guides are showing him bouncing around almost like a, you see like pinball machine.
Okay.
Like sometimes you can't get the pinball. Like I see him bouncing around between bunkers and a lot of places where they can't get their arms around him. So.
Okay. Do you have anything your guides want to share?
Yes, very important for this week. They're telling everybody, take time to acknowledge your guides and angels and the guides and angels and archangels leading the earth right now, because they're really pulling a very heavy load. And so everybody kind of get behind that, acknowledge all the good they're doing, and really look for the good they're doing in the world, wherever you see it, where, nuclear disasters don't take place and, rockets don't go off, bombs land, they don't go off. This is all the work by a lot of your guides and our guides and angels behind the scenes. So take time to acknowledge it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, my friend.
Okay.
That was
And I always
fun.
mention really quickly, if anybody needs to reach me, sterlingpsychicmedium.com, just look for the book a session tab. It's real easy. So
Yeah. And I'll also post it down in the comment section. Okay.
okay. See you at the Oscars.
I'll see you at the Oscars.
There
I'll
you
wait
go.
for you. I'll wait.
All right. Take care.
Bye, sweetie. Take care.